Hi there guys, it's Mike from MCQBushcraft here and welcome to another video. In this video I'm going to do a kit update. I'm going to show you what I generally carry now when I go out wild camping or when I'm doing bushcraft skills day to day. Maybe I'm going away doing a bit of shooting or fishing, or I'm teaching a course and I've got to sleep over in the woods in between courses because they're back to back. This is the kind of kit that I carry with me. Very basic, very lightweight and just quite simple. But first things first, I'm going to show you some of the tools that I carry: axe, knife, fire lighting equipment, because I've got to get a fire going. There's a lot of midges flying everywhere, which are little tiny flies that we have here in the British Isles. And because it's been raining for the last few weeks and suddenly the sun has decided to come out again, it's creating a lot of humidity and the flies are going crazy and they're all coming up all over the place. So this will be a good chance for me to show you some of the tools that I carry and how I make fires when I'm out practicing these skills or just out wild camping. I've cut myself a piece of ash here. This is some dead standing. What I mean by dead standing is it's dead wood that's off the ground, so it hasn't absorbed moisture. So this will make a fantastic fire feather, and you can ignite this quite easily with a Ferrocerium rod, which is what I intend to do. So I'm going to gather some small twigs just to put on top, make a little raft, and I'll show you some of the tools I carry and how I make a fire when I'm out. There's plenty of this spruce all over the place, and it's all dead. You can see it's been off the ground from where these trees have fallen over, and these are the kinds of twigs that I want really to start my fire. This is what I look for basically when I go out wild camping or I'm out doing any kind of thing and I need to make a fire. I look for dead twigs like this that are off the ground, and any kind of conifer is fantastic because it has a resin content, which means it burns quite violently anyway, so you've got a bit of an added bonus with that. Ground here is pretty clear. We don't have any pine needles or thick beds of needles built up anywhere. It's not really that kind of woodland, it's a spruce woodland. And this is a muddy area anyway, very damp. The ground is just absolutely saturated, as it normally is. And I've just got some dead wood here, just cut some old bits of dead timber that are lying around just to make a raft on the ground just like this. And I'm going to put one just on the back here just as a brace, just to give some elevation between the materials I'm working with so I don't smother it. On the back of my pack here I keep my axe, which is one of my main tools. I probably use this more than my knife. Very versatile tool. This is a Holterfors Classic Hunter with a 2-pound head and a 21-inch handle, and I keep it behind the frame of this LK35, which is my backpack here. It does keep it away from my body, it doesn't actually touch my back, and there's just a strap here securing it in. You just loosen that and you pull it out, and by keeping it close to my back there, just here right by the base of my back, it actually distributes the weight very easily, and I barely notice the weight of the axe when it's just the axe on my pack and nothing else. For a small workstation I normally cut myself a thick piece of wood like that. Thicker would be better, but it just gives me something hard to work on with the axe. And to split this piece of ash, it's really simple. If I just look at the end grain, it's quite central really, so it should split really easily. It's got a nice straight grain, so very easy to work with. I do get on with this axe very well. I've had it for about 2 years now, and it's a lovely axe. Good steel, good wood, and nice heavy head, 2 pounds, and a good length handle. So it's versatile, it can be carried, it's compact, and it can do a lot of work. That heavy head can really split down big logs, which I do use it for. And it can also be used for fine work as well if you really choose to do that, and you might not want to use your knife. So a very good axe for an affordable price, and I get on with it quite well. Another tool that's always on me is my knife, my primary tool. I use this quite a lot, and this is my own knife, a Fieldmaster that I designed with Lee from LB Custom Knives, RWL 34, which is quite a high performance stainless steel. My carter, and as someone who spends a lot of time in damp environments and on coastal environments, something that's stainless and that's very good for game prep, also very good for wood prep, and just has a versatile full flat grind with a secondary convex bevel. It's an excellent tool that I use pretty much on everything I do. Another item that I carry on my person is my Ferrocerium Rod. I carry a 5" by 1/2" inch just on my belt here in a leather sheath with a locking toggle so it can't come off and drop out anywhere, and this is a kit I make myself. I've carried this for quite a long time, and the reason I use such a large Ferrocerium rod is because you can use it tens and tens of thousands of times, provided you've got good technique. It'll last you a very long time. It can get wet, it can be freezing cold, it's still compatible with a wide range of tinders, and it's a very useful, versatile tool that I always carry on me. Even though I use bow drill and I practice other methods, using them in a wet environment on the day practically can be very difficult, so having something like this still keeps you in the loop with all those natural materials, forces you to use your other tools to keep your skills honed, but it also keeps you a bit closer to the natural materials you're using. I usually scrape the Ferrocerium rod with the back of my knife. It's got a good 90-degree spine on it, as well as some jimping that could be used also. And if you pick the feather with the finest curls, it will require a bit of persistence, but you can get them going with this quite easily. Once that's lit, shield it from the wind and hold it upright. You can lay the other one over like that, and then the third one, move your tools out of the way, put all your twigs on top, and you should have a pretty good fire. Fire's quietened down a bit now. A lot of the spruce is burnt away, and I've processed enough hardwood with the axe so I don't need to use it anymore for my duration here in the woods. It doesn't take much really, as it burns quite slowly if you pick the right wood. But in my pocket here I have some other things. I have a torch. You might call it a flashlight if you're from the States. In the British Isles we generally call them torches. This is an LD22. I've had this for about 5 years now, maybe 6. Very useful torch, has adjustable brightness so you can make it last for a long duration, takes AA's, and it really hasn't changed. I used to have a gun adapter on it so it could clip under the bottom of a shotgun for when I was lamping rabbits. I also had a head strap for it so it could go on the top of my head like this, but that head strap wore out, so I do intend to buy another one. So always carry a torch in my pocket, and that just goes in my cargo pocket just here. Another thing that I carry is a pair of gloves, and these are mechanic gloves. I quite like these gloves, they're actually very durable. I used to use the 511 flight gloves, and I do like those as well, but I got through a couple of pairs of them and I just decided it was time to try something new. I heard these were durable, so I always carry a pair of gloves on my Falraven trousers. In my cargo pouch as well I do have something else. I have a Spyderco double stuff sharpening stone, and this is in a strop pouch that I've made for it. It's just a pouch that keeps the stone clean and safe, but it also has a dedicated strop along the top, and I have done videos on this. But the stone can be pulled out and used to hone a knife, an axe or a blade of any kind, and then you have a strop on top with some stropping compound on it, some Smurf poo or Starkey blue as I generally use, and that's really good for just keeping the edge on the knife sharp, and the axe as well. Other things I carry on me: string. Got some string just here loosely in my pocket, got some 550 cord and also some jute twine. Always carry that just loosely in my pocket. And another tool I always carry on me, the one I use to process pieces of wood down, carry a Baco Laplander on me. But there are better saws out there. I'm soon to upgrade, I think. I might go for one of the Silkies or put together some kind of bow saw, but I like things that are compact and foldable that can just be on my person like this. It's far easier than having to assemble a buck saw, for example, out of your pack. That's great for a base camp, but sometimes you just want to head to an area and just have all that kit on your person for it to just be lightweight and quite compact for you to use when you need it. But that goes in the cargo pant of my Falraven trousers here, and I've got a little lanyard that just comes up and clips to a securing fastener just here on my belt. So you've seen most of the items that I carry on me, all essential tools. I've got a way of making fire, a cutting tool, I do have a container and a pouch that goes on my back, so sometimes I can carry a stainless steel water bottle on me full of water, or empty, so I can fill it up and then make a fire and actually boil some water, sterilise it so I can drink it. Sometimes I carry some snacks on me too in my cargo pockets. It really does vary, but the basic tools you're seeing in this video are things that I always carry on me. One thing is a whistle. I do always carry a whistle on me. I think it's quite an essential bit of kit. It's such a good way of signalling out to people that are a long distance away, and I've used it many a time in a variety of places, really, just to call out to people, especially when the weather's really bad and you just need to get that noise across to someone to get them to turn around so you can flag them down. But it's getting a bit later on in the day and I'm getting quite hungry, so I think I'll show you my cook set and then get some food going on the fire behind me, and I'll show you some of the food that I use as well when I'm out on trails like this or camping out. On the outside of the pack here I've stitched on this webbing pouch, and it's just big enough for my cook set. The reason I keep the cook set on the outside is because easy to access water that way if I'm moving and I want to take my pack off, have a drink, something like that. But also it's full of water, so if I don't put the lid on properly and I put it into my main compartment, which is full of all my clothing and potential sleep kit, stuff that's really important, insulation basically from the elements, then that'll just absorb all the water. So if you pull this tab here, you can see that my cook set is inside. I've got a lid that goes on the top of my mug, and if I just pull this out, it should really all come out as one, because this bottle fits quite tightly into here. You can see they're not actually designed to go with each other. This is new because I left the original cup for this in the Lake District when I was on a course. I forgot it. But it can come out pretty easily, and you've got a stainless steel water bottle with a removable lid that goes straight in the fire, or a mug that can go in the fire as well that's made of stainless steel too. And inside here is a spork. So that's basically my cook kit. Really basic kit, but very versatile, and obviously you can tailor your meals around the cooking vessel to make it easier to work with. I've got a food bag just here, and this is what I carry all my food in. Not this tiny little bag, it opens up very large, and it's not a dry bag, it's actually breathable, which I want it to be, and it's always kept inside the pack anyway. But this can carry quite a few days worth of food. I've done about 4 to 5 days out of it, carrying things like rice, pasta, oats, a little bit of dried meat, things like crackers and other bits of carbohydrate. You can carry like nuts and trail mix, and that's something I always carry on me. Always have a bag of trail mix. It's the way forward. It settles the stomach, it gets rid of that hunger for you. You just keep it in your pocket and you eat a few nuts and berries every now and then. Nice bit of energy, and just keeps you going through the day, and it stops you suddenly getting really hungry and losing energy and realising you need to get a fire going and you haven't done it all already. But one thing I take for lunches is porridge oats. Just have porridge oats. I mean, whether it comes in a little satchel like that or whether I just fill the bag with oats, just depends what I get really. I was given a huge box of porridge oats recently, this brand here, so I'm just using them, but this is with golden syrup flavouring. Makes it easy to eat, it's nice and sugary, gives you a bit of energy. I usually have 2 satchels because one's not enough, and that's a good lunch. A very slow release energy that keeps you going. Just starting to rain again. Once I'm done with this, I just give it a rinse, pop it back in. On the other side of the pack, in the other pouch, is exactly the same pouch as the other side, just stitched on around the edge. I have my med kit with a patch to indicate that. And if we pop that open, the first thing you can see is an Israeli compression bandage just there. Just in case something goes wrong and I need to access it straight away. It's the first thing there because it sort of indicates the most severe of the injuries. But if you pop that out, I've got a little Clamshell Med Kit there. This is just a personal med kit, and it unzips like a clamshell, just like that. Variety of items in there. I'm not going to go into a huge amount of detail because I've done this on other videos, but we have some tape. I've got some AA's, which I use for my torch. I've got some tissue here, which I often use as loo roll, just for the beginnings of the trip. A needle and thread for repairing equipment. A toothbrush, just like that. So this is part of my hygiene kit as well, as my toothbrush in. I've got some oil. The oil is for cooking, but it's also for medical stuff. This is just a walnut oil, a food grade walnut oil. I use it for lots of different things. It can be put on chapped lips, it can be put on dry hands, but it's also very good for cooking, even maintaining tools as well. I don't use it a huge amount, so I don't carry loads of it, but useful stuff to have. I also have a mirror as well, good for signalling, but also nice if you have an injury, you want to have a look at your face, for example. Maybe you got something in your eye, or you've scratched your face quite badly and it's bleeding, you want to check it out. So the mirror is pretty useful for that. But that's really what I've got on that side there. On the other side I have a range of things. I've got some dressing here. This is a compression bandage just there, and another small bandage just here, and that's for smaller wounds basically. Quite useful. A pair of scissors, got a guard on it as well, just a bit of rubber, useful for things like fingernails, toenails, cutting things out. I do carry a pair of tweezers as well, but it's actually in my camera kit at the moment, as I've just been using it to do something with a memory card, believe it or not. But I have some pills here too. Got some aspirin, and I've got some anti-inflammatories in case of injuries and things like that, and some water purification tablets if I really did need them. But this sort of stuff rarely ever gets used. Some antiseptic cream, quite useful, and an array of dressing really. As I say, I've covered this in detail in another video, so I won't go into too much detail about it, but it's just a basic personal first aid kit with some hygiene items in there too, that just really allow me to look after myself when I'm out and about, because there are a lot of natural remedies around, but when things go wrong, really it's nice to have some preparations, and it's stupid not to. I just took a bit of an intermission, went over there to the edge of the woodland, where it gets very grassy and the trees start to get very small, and then it goes up again into large conifers. But there's kind of like an intermittent patch of grassland, and I found this guy, a snake. This is a grass snake, one of the few snakes we have over here in the British Isles. A really lovely one, nice size, and unfortunately it was dead when I found it. It was just on the ground, but it hasn't been dead for very long, and it looks like somebody's either bludgeoned it with something, stamped on it, or hit it with something. It almost looks like it's been run over, to be honest, although there weren't signs of vehicle tracks or any kind of quad bikes or anything like that. But yeah, a nice one to find, and a shame really. They're very secretive creatures. You don't often see them unless they're injured, they can't hide themselves, or they're dead like this one over here. So you generally don't get to see them too often unless you're actively looking for them. But a nice one, a good size. You've seen most of the essential items that I've got on me, and obviously that exist on the outer of the pack. One thing I haven't touched on is clothing. That's going to be a separate video, because clothing really is a video in itself, and it's your first line of defence. It's really important. It's pretty changeable. Obviously you can pack less or more, take different types of clothing depending on what the weather's going to bring, how long you're going to be out. The same applies for my sleep system as well. I'm going to do another video on that after this one, because sometimes I'm in a hammock, sometimes I'm on the ground. At the moment this is really a ground setup, and what you see here is pretty standardised, but I prefer being on the ground. I'm generally warmer, I can be more flexible with the environments I'm in, I can use natural materials to pad the ground out and be much warmer, things like mosses and also leaf litter on the ground. You can almost completely get rid of a roll mat altogether and just go out in a bivy bag with a sleeping bag. And if you're familiar with the kind of terrain you're in, you know there's going to be good leaf litter and things around you can use. You can really pad the ground out and have a very warm night. But I'm going to show you what's in the pack now. So we're going to open this up, get the bag off, get it open, and I'll show you what's inside. Once we get this bag off, we gain access to the actual pack itself, and you can see there's not a lot in the inside. What I do have though on the outside is some foam here lining the actual outer of the pack, and that keeps its shape. And also what we have is a drawstring sack on the inside that actually keeps everything dry. The pack is waterproof in really heavy rain. I've left it out, hung on trees outside my hammock and shelter just to test it out. First item I'll take out is my tarpaulin. This is a DD 3x3. I've done a full video on this, and it's in a dry bag, so if it gets wet it can be stuffed in, put back in the pack, and I don't have to worry about it contaminating all my clothing and getting that wet. This is a quick deployment setup, so it can be strung up in just a few minutes, and it can be configured for a diamond or a square or any other setup you may need for a hammock or on the ground. I've touched on the food bag. The food bag really does change in terms of what's in it. It can be very full or it can be quite empty like it is now, because I'm obviously not out for a great duration. But I usually put quite a lot of different types of food in there, and again food will be reserved for another video because it really is an entire discussion in itself. With other items we have inside, I've got some clothing. This is my clothing bag, and it's a mesh bag, and usually I carry a number of different things in there. These items can often come out. This is a wool hat, and I often have a wool hat on me all year round. It's very useful to use at night. Things do cool down, and putting a hat on retains a lot of body heat. I've got a Shemagh just there, or a scarf as you could call it, and that's part of my hygiene kit as well. This is basically my towel. These things make amazing towels, and you can use them for all sorts of different things. Keeping warm, for making a pillow out of if you're on the ground, or making a pillow a little bit more comfortable. So I always carry one of those on me for insulation and for washing. But inside here, I carry inside the bag again, just dropped out. This is a spare pair of thin 100% wool socks. I always carry spare clothing with me. The amount of clothing I carry really changes depending on how long I'm out. So normally I take one set of replacement clothing and I just rotate it. So I have wicker layer, that's what I generally wear, wicker layer clothing. I don't like cotton when I'm out, especially when I'm working hard and you're sweating. If you're wearing cotton it just gets saturated, and it really doesn't retain a lot of thermal value. Whereas this stuff dries very fast and it does retain a degree of thermal value. So this wicker layer stuff is brilliant, and I have underpants, a t-shirt, a pair of wool socks, and they dry really fast around the fire, which is the great thing about them, so you can keep those sorts of things clean. But the way I usually do it, if I'm away for a long time and I need to take more, the dirty stuff goes to the back, and I always rotate in a circle like that, so I know what's clean and what isn't, and it can be washed and then hung out. The last item I have in the pack is a bivy bag. And this is the bivy bag I use. This is a British Army grade 1 bivy bag, and grade 1 means it's been used, but it's of a very high grade, so it's in good condition, and this one is. I've used it quite a few times, really useful. It's basically just a big Gore-Tex sack that your sleeping bag and your sleep mat go into, and it keeps the damp from the ground from getting into all of your kit. It also blocks out the wind and rain too. Very comfortable, adds about a season onto a bag roughly, if you're cutting out wind and thinking about it that way. It does quite a lot for you. But if you look at the size of it, this is roughly how big my hammock setup is as well. So there's really nothing else that changes in this pack when I use a hammock. I still use the same foam sleep mat in a hammock, same bag unless I take my larger Arctic bag in the winter, and I use the same tarpaulin. So this kit really does remain quite similar, and if you're interested in my hammock setup, I'll put a link in the description for you, because I've just done a full video on the setup for that. So the bivy bag is the last piece of gear that comes out of this sack, and you can see that there's not an awful lot in there. Very much reserved for clothing, for extra food, all the sorts of things that really provide you with insulation to fend off the elements and give you a comfortable night. But I'll show you how the lining of the pack works. And that's pretty useful because, as I said, it doubles up as a wash basin, and the actual lining of this pack here comes out like that. it keeps a pack, it gives it its shape really, and it stops things damaging from the inside if I put a lot of stuff in there, especially if I put sharp things in. But this just rolls up like that, and because this stuff is so lightweight, I carry quite a bit of it really. This is my pillow when I'm camping out, so when I'm in the hammock or when I'm on the ground, this is basically my pillow, and I can use this scarf if it's not wet, if I haven't used it to wash pretty thoroughly with, to actually make it a bit more comfortable, because these things are really nice on your skin. They're really soft and very comfortable to sleep on. So this has a use as well. It's not just in there just to keep the pack steady, it's actually part of the sleep system too. But if we get this out here, this is a big waterproof sack, and I'll show you how this works as a wash basin. I've taken some logs that I've cut and just made a pretty basic square. You can use much bigger logs than this, which will give you a deeper basin. But this has a few uses really. It being a large sack, it's completely waterproof, and you can fill the whole thing up with water and actually carry water with the backpack, which I've done once before, and it's been very, very useful for that. But if you put this inside like that, it just creates a wash basin for you. You can fill that now with warm water from the fire, obviously not boiling water, or else that will damage the sack and your skin. But warm water can go in there if you don't have a clean water source, and you can use the rag and clean yourself, have a nice wash and maintain hygiene, and it's amazing what clean water will actually do for you. Soaps and suds and all these sorts of things you see in the modern world, they're not really needed to actually clean your skin. Fresh water can do a lot for you, and you have to remember that a lot of the reason you get dirty is because we wear clothing. If you didn't wear clothing, you wouldn't be so unhygienic, but this clothing we wear, trapping moisture, trapping dirt and all the oils against our body, creates a nice environment for bacteria to breed in. Another thing as well is the pillow I mentioned to you can become a changing mat. Sometimes it becomes a changing mat for me. If you're having a real good wash, you're taking your boots off, your trousers off, and you really need to wash quite thoroughly, then it's nice to be on something that isn't going to stick to you. All the dirt on the ground can bond to you quite a lot when you're damp, so that can be pretty annoying if you don't bring anything with you like that to change on. But hygiene can be real simple, and if you don't have a water source that you can access, this is a great way of facilitating it by the campfire with clean water. This backpack I'm using, this LK35, it's a Swedish backpack. I've done a video all about it, and I'll put it in the description for anyone who's interested. It can look really uncomfortable. It can literally look like it's made of scaffold and seat belts, as somebody said to me a little while ago. But it's actually one of the most comfortable packs I've ever used, and amazingly comfortable. And it's because of the frame design. Now when you buy the pack originally, it'll just have these shoulder straps, and it's pretty comfortable like that, but what you'll find is all of the weight, although it's flat to your back, it'll be pulling on your shoulders very slightly, and that's why I put this waist belt on it, because this changes it completely. We put this on, it sits very, very comfortably on your hips, and suddenly these shoulder straps, if I loosen them, I'll show you, they become null and void really. They don't do anything, they're not bearing the load anymore. It's all just on my hips there, all on my lower body, which is fantastic, and that's exactly where you want all the weight to be, just to be on your hips and on your lower body. So all these straps do now is they just keep it flush to my back to align with my centre of gravity. And the way I pack this bag is all of the heavy stuff goes at the top and close to my back. So it's about halfway up and really close to my back, all the heavy stuff, and all the lighter stuff like the foam roll mat and other things like clothing go at the bottom of the pack. And that's a really good way to pack your bag. You may often see people say pack all the heavy stuff at the bottom. Well, if you do that, you'll be feeling like this all the time and it'll be pulling down on you. But if you pack it close to your back and a bit higher up, it will align with your centre of gravity and you'll be able to carry really heavy loads for long distances. And that's really where frame packs come into their own. Great pack, really good system, and I've got on with this really well. It's really nice, and even though I can carry heavy weights with it, you can see my kit's not the lightest, but with this pack it becomes very light. So I've shown you my system almost in its entirety. All the tools that I carry, med kit, cooking kit, hygiene kit, my med kit as well, and all of that really stays the same. It hasn't changed for a long time, and my systems are quite refined, quite comfortable with it. They don't feel like I need anything extra. There'll always be improvements on kit. The more you use it, the more you improve things, and that's just a natural development of going out and practicing and using things and getting comfortable with other things, experiencing new environments and new conditions, and it just kind of all has its effect on your kit, your clothing, your boots, your gear, your sleep systems, and things just develop with time. The things that are variable though are food. Obviously I pack more of it when I'm out for longer durations. Maybe I'm taking my gun or my fishing gear, which I haven't shown you in this kit, but sometimes I take my gun or my fishing kit and I've got the ability to catch game or catch food, and in that context I don't need to take as much food with me, but it really depends on where I'm going and what I'm doing. Sleep systems and clothing as well, two very variable things. Sometimes I take a bigger sleeping bag, and that's really all that changes with my sleep system. I just take a thicker sleeping bag. If I'm going to really cold conditions, or I'm out at a time of year that's pretty cold, sometimes I take a thermal layer like this. This is called an Iceman, and it is just a big onesie basically, but very, very warm. It's called the Iceman. Goes on, a really good system to put on, and that can put an extra season on your bag. As well as a Bivi bag too. It makes an incredibly warm setup. You can see that when I'm in a hammock as well, not much changes either. Obviously I take away the Bivi bag, I put a hammock there instead, and I still use the same roll foam mat thing that I have at the bottom there for my hammock. I just don't use the hammock at the colder times of year. I'm not one of these all year round hammock campers, because I actually prefer to be on the ground. I much prefer going out to an environment, seeing what resources I have, using leaf litter to build a nice bed, making a natural shelter, and actually sleeping out in that kind of context. And when I usually go out on my own and do those sorts of things, that's usually what I do, because a lot of the time solo camping is what I enjoy. I really enjoy solo camping. At work though, obviously take a tarpaulin because I just don't have time to be building shelters and making leaf beds on the ground and debris beds and sleeping on them. So things are very variable, but a lot of the tools stay the same. But if you're interested in my sleep system and you're interested in my clothing, there'll be two separate videos on that. Clothing will be one video and boots, and then the sleep system the other, and I'll show you how my sleep systems work with various setups and the kind of things I like to do basically. But I do have another kit straps on the front of this that does have some hunting gear in, so I will include that in another video too. But I hope this video's helped out. I hope you found it useful, and I'll see you very soon in another one. Take care guys, thanks again.